Well, let me just start by saying that my parents came from very humble means. They are children of homesteaders, and neither one of them even graduated from high school. But they had a dream, and that dream is not unlike the dreams of families all over Montana. They wanted to send all of their children to college. Now, I grew up there between Geyser and Rainsford, and while they didn't have the resources to send me to a monastery for high school, I went to a monastery for high school, and tuition was very expensive there. We couldn't afford to pay for it. But those monks recognized how important it was to have a diverse group of children at their school. A kid from humble means, from small farm in Montana, mixed with kids that came from across the United States was good. Well, now, so they gave me scholarships to go to that school. But those scholarships were not just givens. I worked 20 hours a week the whole time I was in high school. I mopped floors. I broke bolts at the monastery. I shoveled. I don't know if I can say what I shoveled out there. I shoveled plenty of that. And I made it through with that help. Let's talk about what happened in college. I couldn't afford to go to college either. But there were a great number of loans that I took on. There were work-study projects. And there were opportunities for private scholarships, of which I achieved and received. So without those scholarships, I'm telling you that my parents, those humble people on that farm near Geyser, would not have been able to send 6 of their kids to college. So when we talk about the function of nonprofits, probably the most important function of nonprofits is to help every single family to achieve that dream of higher education. And those of you that are involved in any way in helping and funding our education system privately, God bless you, because you've changed the lives of not only one generation, but the generation that will follow them and the generation that came before them. Thank you.
Good morning, Governor. Peggy Grimes, Montana Representative. I want to commend you for working down on improving our economy and for having that budget surplus, and also for the $1 million that you put into the low-income energy assistance program that's going to help Montanans this fall. One question I would ask you, though, is that through the Montana Food Bank Network, we provide food to about 200 emergency feeding programs in the state, and there's some real concern out there. We're beginning to serve people who are at 185 to 200% of the poverty level. And so I'm wondering if you are aware and have some plan in place for this fall for people who really are concerned about how they're going to put food on their table.
I can tell you this, in addition to LEAP, and there will be more money for LEAP because this might be one of the toughest winters that we've ever had because of energy prices going up, we are absolutely going to make sure that we put some funds in our food banks. We have now created an energy system that is not sustainable, so that's why we've been so active in Montana, really leading the nation in ideas and projects that are related to all energy, but in particular alternative energy. We don't have an energy system that is sustainable, but as an agronomist, I can tell you something because I know the food system worldwide. We do not have a food production and consumption system that is sustainable. Imagine, here's our system today. The farmer buys his diesel, fuels up that tractor. Now the diesel is petroleum that probably came from a petrodictator someplace. And they plow the field, then they fill up the tractor again, and they plant their crop, and then they use anhydrous ammonia or ammonium nitrate or urea that is made from natural gas that probably came from a petrodictator to fertilize their crop. Then they harvest their crop, once again using diesel, and along the way they use petrochemicals to spray the crop. They ship the crop to some processing plant where they take a good part of the nutrition out of the food and send us back with simple starches. And here is the greatest irony of all. The greatest irony of all is that food product arrives back in your grocery store wrapped in a plastic bag for individual consumption, and the plastic itself was made from oil. We have created a food system that is not sustainable, it is not affordable, and unfortunately most of this processed food is not particularly healthful. That's why we've invested in our local food production and consumption systems. That's why we encourage people to buy from your local farmer. That's why we encourage you to build a relationship with the people closest to you that grow food. It makes sense to me to buy locally grown food. Now, I'm going to tell you, Montana passed a country of origin labeling, and the rest of the states did not, and the federal government themselves, who passed it 8 years ago, refused to enforce it. Montana took a lead, passed a country of origin, so that at least a consumer will know what country their food came from. But I think the most important question you should ask yourself as you bring food to your kitchen table is, do I know my farmer? Locally produced food will make more food available for food banks because these are fresh foods, and as they try and sell them in the local markets, once they're 1 day out or 2 days out, they'll end up in the food banks. We need more producers in Montana producing local food, not just the wheat and barley that we produce in large abundance and alfalfa, but more Montanans growing an array of vegetables, fruits, and you can grow it really from asparagus all the way to zucchini, A to Z. Thank you.
So let me just really commend you again, Governor, on the fact that you are so concerned about rebuilding the infrastructure, the processing infrastructure in Montana. You've done a great work at that and to building that Montana food system, so I commend you for that as well.
Thank you very much. One more question.
Governor, you talked about the food economy of Montana. There's lots of folks here that live in rural Montana. Could you explain what your administration has done to enhance the economy outside the boot in rural communities?
4 years ago, when I was asking the people of Montana to support the first Democratic governor in 20 years, I said to them that we have two basic economies in Montana, and I coined the phrase the cowboy boot economy. The cowboy boot, if you look at a map, some of you have seen it now, it starts in Flathead, and it heads on down to Missoula County, and it turns in the middle of the foot is Gallatin County, and the toe is Billings. If you consider that boot, within that boot, even 5 years ago, it was a growing economy. If it was a single state, it would have been one of the fastest growing states in America. But outside the cowboy boot was a completely different story. Outside the boot, in eastern and northeastern Montana in particular, what we had was a rapidly aging population. We had a net immigration of people. We had declining income. And we had a whole part of Montana that seemed to think that there was no hope and no opportunity. Well, as your CEO, I decided, well, gee, I could build a 14-foot fence around western Montana, and people would buy 16-foot ladders, and they were going to come anyway. That wasn't the part of the economy that I focused on. I said, what are the assets that we have in eastern Montana? Well, if you look at the global economy, I recognize that in particular, energy is an opportunity we have in eastern Montana. Whether that be wind power, transmission lines, whether it be biodiesel and the opportunities for producing locally grown crops and producing biodiesel to put in your own tractor, or whether that's investing in the oil and gas industry where we've increased oil production by 40%, or pipeline capacity. When we increased that oil production, we had inadequate pipeline capacity, so I called the three governors together from Wyoming and North Dakota. We had a meeting in Billings, and now we have billions of dollars being invested in pipeline capacity in Montana so we can actually move the new oil and gas out of Montana. If you, who's from Miles City? Now, 5 years ago, how easy was it to rent a place to live in Miles City? Pretty easy, right? Get tougher all the time. I mean, things are active in Miles City. Part of it's the energy economy. Part of it is a regional trade center. But the point is that the net immigration from eastern Montana has stopped. And there is a net immigration to eastern Montana. Building these energy projects, building biodiesel, building wind, building transmission, drilling oil. And yes, for the first time in 20 years, we've actually increased coal production. You've heard about it for the last 20 years, but I'm here to tell you, you probably already knew it. In 1988, we were producing 40 million ton of coal. And in 2004, we were still producing 40 million ton of coal. I'm the first governor in 20 years to actually increase coal production. Oil's up, coal's up, electricity generation is up, biodiesel, transmission lines, jobs across Montana. We've just started. We've got a lot more to do. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.